Hi there, and welcome to Ambitious Single Moms Stories of Strength and Success. I'm Sonja from Your Success Story Single Mom Level Up Edition, and I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. I'm a mother of 3 wonderful daughters, and when my husband separated from me in 2017, he moved out on a Sunday, and the next morning my mother died unexpectedly. During this time, I was although in the middle of chemotherapy. Suddenly, I'm all alone with 3 small children. As a single mom and a businesswoman, I know firsthand how challenging and rewarding this journey can be. When I first became a single mom, I felt overwhelmed and uncertain about the future. But through support and consistency, I've managed to build a life that I'm proud of, both for myself and my 3 children. This podcast is all about celebrating the incredible stories of ambitious single moms who are not only raising their children with love and dedication, but also pursuing their dreams and building successful businesses. Each episode, we will dive into their journeys, exploring the heights and lows, the lessons learned, and the strategies they've used to overcome challenges. My goal is to inspire, motivate, and provide valuable insights for all the amazing single moms out there who are striving to create a better future for themselves and their families. Remember, you are not alone on this journey, and there are endless possibilities when you take charge of your life. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Ambitious Single Moms Stories of Strength and Success. My name is Sonja and I'm your host, and I'm beyond excited to introduce you to my today's guest, Elaine Benfield. Hello, Elaine.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, and I'm happy that you're here today to share your story.
Yes,
So,
I'm happy to
how
speak
many?
with you.
Yeah. So, how many kids do you have?
I have 3. I have a stepdaughter who is 25. I have a 20-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son.
Okay, amazing. So, you've been very, busy with bringing up 3 kids.
I
That's
have. I
that's
have. I was brought into my stepdaughter's life when she was 2, so I've raised her for 23 years now. So I've been, a stepmother and then a mother proceeding afterwards as well. So
yeah. I think that's also something can be something difficult as well, bringing up the girl of someone else.
yeah, it was definitely I always loved kids. And I met her when she was so young, and she looks just like me. And I remember her putting out her hand and said, "Will you be my friend?" And I thought, I'm sold. I'll be her friend and her stepmom. So she kind of reeled me in at a very young age.
Amazing. So, for how long have you been divorced or separated now?
So I am approaching about 18 months
Mhm.
that I got divorced. I was with my ex-husband for 22 years and married for over 20 years. So
Wow.
seems a lifetime in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time. Me too. It was approximately the same time that we were together, though. Yeah, and a new chapter starts. And we decided before that we are going to talk about resilience.
Yes.
So, why did you choose this? And what has it to do with your journey?
Yeah, I think, people don't realize they're resilient until you go through something in their life. I think I always thought I was a strong person, but the last few years have really kind of tested me. And I feel that resilience, anyone can build to have resilience. And I feel it's such an important aspect of someone's life that you need the strength to move on, lead a new direction, find a new path. And very often you have to reach the bottom. And every time I thought I hit the bottom, something would happen next and something would happen next. And so I had really 3 years, almost it's approaching 3 years of just, trauma, difficulty, changes, injuries, and everything in between. And I feel that the one thing common that my friends and colleagues and everyone always says, and family, is you're the most resilient person I know. And that has given me the strength to go, oh, I am. I've gotten through, and I'm in such a great place, 3 years later, that, I think it's just such a key word for, women and men, that you do have to survive. And I think resilience helps you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all went through something that was very tough in our life. And most of the time, when we look back, we needed it.
Mhm.
We couldn't see it at that time, maybe because it hurt so much. But therefore, it's so important that we stand up again and, yeah, be resilient and really make a change in our life. What are you doing to get up every time again? Because sometimes it can be really hard, because I speak of experience. Sometimes I thought, oh, it's too tough this time.
Yeah, I can say, my journey and just some of the highlights that, you know, I was turning 50 a few years ago, and I was so excited. And I believe every year you get older, it's such a gift because some people don't get that. And I was so excited for the year. It's going to be 3 years starting next year. And in February, my at the time 17-year-old son came out as a trans woman. So I thought that was going to be my most traumatic thing. And it ended up being the exact journey that my child had to go through. And seeing her thrive, and, us going through the doctors and everything, and getting her the right, course of health and treatment, was such a blessing, but yet something different. I always said I gave birth to two boys, and to change the narrative, that's overwhelming in many ways. But then July, a month before I turned 50, my ex-husband came to me and said that he cheated on me. And my whole world, I had no indication. We had a great relationship. He was my best friend. And I'm remembering at the time, and I don't know if you felt, I couldn't breathe. My emotions are my stomach. And I got sick all the time and kept throwing up, and just the emotion of it. And, the caveat with that was he not only cheated, he cheated with a man,
Mm.
and he was basically coming out. And, we tried to make it work for months, and it was so traumatic. I don't need to get into some of the details, but it was just heartbreaking. And the kids at the time said they wanted him gone, that it
Yeah.
wasn't healthy for any of us. But then it came to, October, and he confessed he cheated on me for over 10 years with hundreds of people.
Wow.
And you hear that, and your whole world, I was always faithful, and I just never even thought of anything else. And you have to come to the realization that the life you built isn't the life that you are in. And how do you move forward? And so I made the difficult decision, to ask him to leave. And it was the start of that spiral down of, is this the right decision? Is there any way to save this marriage? How do I lose my best friend? How do I breathe again? And one of the most impactful days I always remember was, it'll be 3 years, January 3rd. I saw him on January 2nd, and he told me he fell in love with his boyfriend. And I remember being, crushed. And the next, on January 2nd, he told me that. January 3rd, I couldn't get out of bed. And I just literally, the throwing the covers over your head. And I just didn't know how I was going to survive. And my 17-year-old son at the time said, 16-year-old son at the time said, it's nice to see you vulnerable. I've never seen you break down. You've always been so strong, and that's okay. And we talk about, my super idol heroine has always been Wonder Woman. And
Mhm.
the conversation was, even Wonder Woman has days that she can't get out of bed. That's reality.
Yeah.
And I remember he left the room, and I went to take a shower, and I said, no one will ever make me feel that way again. that pain and that hurt, I'm in control of how my day is, how my mood is. I traditionally wake up very happy. I don't have many, thankfully, just my disposition and my moods. But I remember going, never again. No one will ever make me feel that weak and just, to that bottom of the bottom. And then, the trauma continues. Then you go through, as anyone that's been through divorce, how do you separate things? I didn't get any financial support. I, fought to get this divorce and then financially was losing everything. And and the trauma just continues. There's a lot more to it, but there's those moments where you go, okay, how am I going to get through it? And you do, and then something else happens to knock you down. And I think that's the evolution of, finding where's your new norm and what's your new journey and why did everything happen to you? And that's part of, once again, the resilience.
Absolutely. And so important to point out that we make the decision how we feel and how long we feel about that, because if two people are experiencing the same situation, it's always each person in person who feels something, and one person A feels different than person B. So it's up on us to make a decision. Okay, I'm done with that, or I will go through the emotion, or hey, I need some help. And yeah, that's so important that we know that we can make that decision and we have it in our hands.
And you don't do it alone. I'm sure you felt the same. I'm so lucky I have an incredible family and incredible friends, and they were all every step of the way through all these pieces. And you don't do this alone. I honestly never needed a therapist. I was in a great place in life. The first month I got a therapist, and I'm with her for almost 3 years now. And that was a great decision, that I need someone clinically able to help me and to
Yeah.
have someone that's neutral. Your friends are great, but you need someone who's licensed to help you, that can, help you on this path. And my kids always say, how often do you see her? And if I see her weekly, they know I'm struggling. If I see her every other week, they know that I'm kind of okay. And right now, for a while, I've been every 3 weeks. It's just a touch base, but the kids always know, oh, mom's doing okay. She's not seeing her, that frequently. And there's times in life where then I'll need to see her again every week. But right now it's getting to that point where you do start to heal and you let go of the past to move on. And it's something you said earlier. For me, I didn't know how happy I could be. That I loved my life. I don't deny that I had, I loved being, with my ex-husband all those years, but I kind of lived a lie. He was living a lie. And now I go, oh, he wasn't my person. He didn't make me be the best person or the best version of myself, but I didn't see it at the time. And now everyone says I've lost a lot of weight and I'm like feel better, I look better, the everything. But you have to shed that when you have to start over, that you do find yourself. It's horrible and it's hard, but you can find the new version of you that's even better.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And we have it in our hands, and I also had help, and it's okay to ask for help and to try different therapists. And in the meantime, I know a lot of tools myself. And of course, there are easy things we can do. Dancing, loud music, singing. There are so many things that can get us out of the depressions we maybe have, or the doubts we have. And yeah, because you just said you thought he had lived a life of lies. And yeah, and I guess you had to build something completely new, because your whole in Germany we say Kartenhaus, it's like a cardboard house, everything
Oh,
fell. Right, yeah. And so how did you start to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the hardest things that, and during all this, I want to stress what women go through very often is the financial challenges. I had a phenomenal career. I worked for a software company for 16 years, and then I lost my job. And so, when you think it's bad, then you go, how am I going to pay the bills? And how am I going to do this? How am I going to sell the house that we lived in? How am I going to renovate, sell it, buy a new house? And everything, as you said, like keeps coming, down on you. But and one piece I didn't say is I also last October shattered my ankle. So I had ankle surgery, and then I got infections, and then I was allergic to the metal. So all these things, so I had to have a second surgery. So in between all this of how am I going to survive? But me hurting my ankle, and I had to lie down for 10 weeks, bedridden. It was so traumatic of an injury. I had to have my foot elevated 90% of the day. And I sat with notebooks and said, how am I going to get out of this? I'm a planner, and I came up with my to-do list of what do I have to do? How am I going to start my new life? And I say the accident happened to get me to the place where when I was able to walk again, how am I going to do this? And it's amazing how if I didn't have that moment, I don't know if I could have almost dug myself out. So in the end, it really was this blessing that it was the way that I was so centered. And then I was like, I know what I have to do. And my friends are like, how did you do that? I'm like, because I've sat here for 10 weeks thinking and overthinking and planning and to-dos and who's the team that's going to help me do this? And that's really was the start of me going, I think I've got this.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes, or most of the times, most of the times we can only see it afterwards. I guess in the beginning you said, "Oh, why do I have now this with my ankle?" But afterwards we realize it was a gift, and everything happens for a special reason. And I guess you needed the rest to figure out and to get silent and get in peace and everything. So was this
And
all?
one of my most devastating thing was, so when I got divorced, I decided to go on a divorce trip. You and I both love traveling, and I had a trip planned to California. One of my bucket list was traveling and hiking in Joshua Tree, going to Palm Springs, and just enjoying 4 or 5 days alone. I had to move the trip. I wasn't able to fly. So I just went a few weeks ago and was like, oh, this is what I was waiting for. And I told my surgeon for my ankle, I said, my goal, he said, what is your goal to get better? And I said, I'm hiking Joshua Tree. Even though I can't do it this year, I'm going to do it next year. And that was the most freeing feeling. Like I got to the moment where it was a divorce trip. So the combination of being alone, doing that, but then I was able to physically do the hiking and the exertion that I just longed for, and being in nature and just enjoying being by myself. And it was the pinnacle of everything that I worked so hard for.
Yeah, amazing. And thank you that you mentioned that. It's so important that we have goals, and yeah, and that also as a single mom, when we are so busy, especially you have 3 kids, I have 3 kids. When we have kids and we are always busy, they always need something, but we have to take our time, and not by having problems with the ankle and having to rest like that, but take your time, do meditation or sit on the kitchen table and write down what are your dreams. Everybody should have dreams, and yeah, figure out step by step how you can reach them.
And your dreams change. I
Yeah.
want to say that I had dreams of a married woman with a partner. Now my dreams are infinitely higher, and they're infinitely more, because it's things I wanted to do that I realized that he just didn't want to do. And I was held back because of that. And now I'm like, oh, I had a girlfriend who said, oh, she called me on a Tuesday and said, oh, can we go hike? Can you come up? And can you fly to Philadelphia? Can we go hiking in upstate New York? And in America, you really do have to take the planes to get to. It's 22-hour drive or something worse. And I said, yes. Asked my kids on a Tuesday. I was gone on a Friday. And I said, do you mind if I go away for the weekend with my best friend? And they said, of course. We've got the dogs, like, don't even think. And now I'm nimble where I can be adventurous again and spontaneous and things that it was just, we talked about things to death, that it's now I'm like, oh, yes, I can go do that. And I say yes now more than I said say no,
Yes.
because we're not. This
Yeah.
is, I don't, I mean, I, have my kids and they're older and of course, my beloved dogs, but I can find a way to help get the coverage to just be free again.
Yeah, so important. Yeah, we should find the good in everything and the positive sides. And I have these sides as well. I enjoy. Of course, not everybody's lucky that they have a good relationship with the ex-partner and that he's taking the kids. But when you are lucky, enjoy the weekends. I really enjoy the weekends when the kids are not here. So I celebrate that. And yeah, I travel a lot as well and going on seminars and workshops and everything. So and I started sewing a few years ago because then at that time I had the time. I didn't have it before. So I knew, okay, here on the weekends.
Oh,
But
I find it interesting that you don't have the time. I'm now doing things that, I love doing, but I never had the time.
yeah,
Maybe it was me, just the kids are older, but within a few years, I'm getting all my hobbies that I love doing, that I'm going to start playing tennis again. I'm, going walking more with my dogs. There's so many things that I just always said, oh, yes, you'll do it. And now I'm like, no, there's no question I'm doing it. And it's wonderful.
yeah, yes, I meant before I didn't have the time. Now I have the time. Now I take my time.
Same. That's exactly it, that you don't in the middle of all this. And it's life and your kids are younger, but still you
Mm,
don't. And I think it's so important for everyone to take time for yourself. Enjoy being with yourself.
yeah,
I'm still not ready to date. And that's okay. And everyone, oh, I can't wait to see who you end up with. And I'm like, I'm really good right now. And because this is my time, this is my time to figure out me and next career path and next, then everything will line up the way it's meant to be. I'm good. And that's also very nice to want to be by yourself. I
yeah.
think some women don't, and they're scared to be alone. And I think you're healthier in a relationship when you're okay being alone.
Yes, absolutely important to enjoy being alone and not feeling lonely when you are alone. And yeah, I enjoy, I can keep myself busy with things I love to do when I'm on the weekend and when I'm alone, and I have no problems going to the cinema alone or doing something else. Once I've been to a concert and I got the ticket for my kids and they asked, with whom are you going? And I said, I'm going alone. It's not a problem. I can go alone to a concert.
And it's good for the kids to see that.
Yeah.
It's good for them to be, oh, who'd you go to dinner with? I'm like, I went by myself.
Mhm.
I'm completely happy with that. And I used to be very nervous of being, oh, are people going to say something? There's the woman sitting alone. And it's like, no one cares. No one cares. No one's looking at you. That it's just enjoy your moment of, you get to have what you want to eat. You get to do what you want, have a drink or a cocktail. It's nice. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just mentioned that you take the time and to figure out new career and everything. You've got a podcast on your own, which is called, as we can see in the background, Her Stories. So we know the history, his history, yeah, but her story. How did you find out about that name and what does it all have to do with, yeah, what's
My
it
new
about?
Yeah, so about 5, 6 years ago, I was talking to my ex-husband at the time and said, boy, we really talk about history. It's always about his. And I said, I really want to tell inspiring women's stories. I am surrounded and I meet wonderful people all the time, traveling in my career and life and neighbors and friends. And every woman I run into, there's something inspiring about them. So we talked about it, but it was kind of like, oh, okay. And it was never dismissed, but the minute my ex-husband moved out, I literally got the rights to the website. I got the sign made. Anyone that can see, like I have the Her Stories sign, and I just bought the rights to it, going, this is my journey to help women hear other women's inspiring stories. And how can we help each other? And these women are incredible. Ones that work for nonprofits, ones that have fought, illnesses, lost husbands, lost children, going through, anything you can think of. And they've all are so inspiring, and they have such a story to tell. So I just, and I say this, I love men, but I feel that men very often have the confidence to be like, oh, here, let me tell you a story. No offense, but I think women, half the time I speak with a woman and they say, why do you find me inspiring? And I'm always stunned that because of all these things, and everyone has something unique. So I've really poured my heart into it. I've actually moved recently, and I took a little time off just to get settled and build my studio. And now I'm excited for 2025 to really, continue telling women's stories, and everyday women that you might walk past on a street and you don't know their story. And that's what I want to continue to do, and help, inspire other women. Um,
Yeah, that's also my aim with the podcast. And it's so important that we hear from others. We know that we don't have exactly the same situation, but these stories can lift us up. And here we are again back with the resilience. When we hear, okay, my neighbor, she made it, I can do it as well. And oh, that woman in Canada or in Australia or in France, yeah, she made it, and she has also 3 kids or even 5 kids. So, wow, she made it. Then I will be able to do it as well. And if I don't believe it, who can help me?
Agreed.
Because I heard that someone made it. So how can it be possible for me? And yeah, so many women, I guess they don't want to share their stories or don't believe that they are important because we were taught. It's not maybe our generation, but generations before, girls or women had to be silent.
Well, and it's interesting is I have on my Her Stories webpage of like what topics. And now I grew up in a generation, my mother's generation, where they never talked about menopause. That was a taboo. You never talked. All my girlfriends talk about it every day because we're all in the 50, year age range. But now we're helping each other. And so the topics that women want to hear about, how do you handle, having a trans daughter, to a gay ex-husband, to I have so many things to talk about, that it's been amazing, because so many people have said, I can't believe you want to share your personal story. And I'm not ashamed. This happened to me. It doesn't define me.
Yeah.
But if I can help other women, then this was what was meant to always happen. It had to happen this way. I wouldn't have done this if I was still married. I know I
Yes.
wouldn't, because I would have focused more on him, which I loved at the time. But this is my next chapter, and I look forward to continuing it.
Yeah, as you said, for me as well, if everything that I went through hadn't happened, I don't know if I would still be alive because I had cancer. So, yeah, everything happens for a special reason. It's up to us to make something out of it. And yeah, your journey is really special because I had, of course, single moms who had a normal separation, toxic relationship, but I had not a woman whose man finally got out and said, okay, I love men. That's something, yeah, I really appreciate that you speak openly about that, because there are, I'm sure, other women who experience the same or something similar. Yeah, and as you said, it doesn't define us. That's so
And there's so
important.
many topics that I think, if this isn't as taboo, I don't think it's still common. But I do hear the once in a while, oh, I've heard of this. And it's, also a trans child. There's nothing wrong. It's not taboo. It's our society's evolving. I think men that grew up in the 50s and 60s are now being able to be who they're meant to be. It's horrible that they had to wait so long, anyone to be their true self. So I think this will become, I don't want to say more common, but you're going to hear more stories of it. And it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that he has the life he was meant to lead. I wish I wasn't a casualty, but it's, but I have my 3 kids. Everyone always says, would you go back? Would you change anything? And in the end, maybe a little of the hurt, but no, to have my 3 children, it's exactly what my life was meant to be, as the mom to the 3 of them.
Yeah, and you didn't know before. He didn't tell you earlier.
Oh, that was the question always, that at that crossroad moment of this, I refer to as a sliding doors moment of, I wish I would have known. I would have made different choices, but I didn't know. And that's okay, because I have these 3 kids. You can't go back. So it's just moving forward. And as we talked about, being resilient and going, oh, this is not the life I thought, but it can be infinitely better.
But going back 10 years earlier, you would have been in your early 40s. Would you have been able to make the decisions you did now? And maybe you wouldn't have thought about doing a podcast or something else. You would have dived into life again and maybe found another partner quite soon. And then you wouldn't take the time for yourself or something like that. So everything happens at the right moment.
And I think my kids were, 16, 17, and 23. And I look going, well, it's not great. It's never great, as you know, with a divorce, no matter what age. But it traumatized. They'll always have trauma from it, of course. And my parents were married for 44 years. So I thought I'd die, with my ex-husband. But I look and go, it happened the time that they were young adults. Is it better than, my stepdaughter doesn't know anything more than I was in her life since she was 2. So I don't know if there's ever a good time. But yes, I've thought, well, what if he would have told me? That my kids would have been 6 and 7, and 13. And I think that I'm happy they remember us being happy for many years. They do know everything, so they know that happiness can be a little have a facade. But I do feel that they had a little bit of their, younger years with traveling and fun, and the 5 of us.
Yeah, it's important to see also that it has a good side. And as you said, yeah, your kids would have been maybe too young to also understand that their father is different.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you probably feel the same, that, I think you've done a great job, as you've mentioned, having a good relationship. I think there's been so much trauma that I think my ex is not healthy for me because of all the lies and deception. But I couldn't be more supportive of him having a relationship with the kids. I'm like, no, 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 go see your dad. Like, go. There's nothing more important than, loving parents that, he's made many mistakes, and I'm not saying I was perfect, but I do believe, having both parents and, being supportive of him being around is so important. The kids need their father, and I would never take that away. I just think and I know relationships, and I'm sure you know some, that becomes really toxic, that the other doesn't want the other to see, and they influence, and it doesn't help your children. It might make you feel better, but it certainly doesn't help your children.
Absolutely. Yes. So thank you so much that you are or were prepared to speak so openly about everything. Do you have last words for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pleasure speaking with you. I think no matter where you are in life, you can survive and you can thrive. And I think it's so important to know your journey might have changed, but it doesn't mean it's not going to be as wonderful, if not more wonderful. And I think building, as we talked about, resilience, you can find a way to be resilient and just have your network, have your family, your friends, the therapist, someone to talk to, a coach, and having that will help you find a way to be resilient and move on and find your happy next chapter of your life. So I hope that, don't give up. I think it's such a hard moment, but I think we're both examples of kind of getting over to that other side, and it can be wonderful again. It really it's a new journey and it's a new path.
Absolutely. It will be different, but it can be wonderful again. And I love the idea. I always talk about chapters as well. So one chapter closed, and whoever has read a book knows that books have chapter, and you are the creator of your life. You write the story. So you decide what's going to be in your next chapter. And is it colorful and with joy and happiness, or is it black and very sad and with depressions, and yeah.
And some, I think you probably, agree is that some people are meant to be in your life for a certain period of time. And that's a chapter that the chapter's closed. And that doesn't mean that wasn't a bad chapter. It means that you have a new chapter that's going to be wonderful. And I think you have to remember that some people are just not in your life that close for your whole life, and that's okay. And that's what your family and friends are for. And, it's a good thing.
Yeah, once I read that we meet also people that we can learn something from them, and some people, as you said, they're not for always in your life. So maybe you don't have anything to contribute to their life anymore. So or you don't. There's nothing you can learn anymore from them. So it's okay that you separate and go, and maybe sometimes you meet years later again and it's nice, and then you go separate ways again.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
It's really true. And I hope I give everyone, the hope and, survival that it does get better. There's so many bumpy, times in life, but in the end, life can be as wonderful as you make it. And I think that's super important.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Elaine, thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Ambitious Single Moms, Stories of Strength and Success. It's been an absolute pleasure having Elaine share her incredible journey and insights with us today. I hope you found her story as inspiring as I did. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below, sharing your thoughts or any questions you have for our guest. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. All the links and additional resources about Elaine and myself can be found in the show notes below. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue bringing you amazing content. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep thriving. See you in the next episode.
Thank you for joining us on Ambitious Single Moms, Stories of Strength and Success. Let's embark on this journey together and rediscover the magic in our lives. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for our next episode.